Good day, everyone. ASAE Business Services is pleased to present this online webinar entitled Deliverability Basics. Our speaker for this presentation today is Jenny Lassie. My name is Jeff Baker, and I will be your moderator for today's seminar. Today's presentation will last approximately 30 minutes and include a specific question and answer period at the end of the session. You may enter a question one of two ways. You can ask a question via the web conference system simply by typing your question into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen and clicking the call out button or hitting enter. Or you may tweet your questions using hashtag ASAE webinar. If you have any technical questions during the event, please email support@highroadsolution.com. Today's webinar is being recorded and all participant lines will be muted during the live program. Today's webinar is a second in a six-part lunch learning series. Each 30-minute bi-monthly webinar will educate attendees on strategies and tactics to quickly boost email marketing performance for any organization. You can click on the titles to register for any particular program. Jenny Lassie comes to HighRoad Solution from a digital marketing management background where she sourced web-based e-communication solutions to round out a direct marketing agency's client offering. With experience handling deployments and deliverability for a wide range of clients with optimized recipient engagement top of mind, Jenny routinely troubleshoots deliverability issues from ISP-level filtering to email client-level filtering, email forensic as she refers to them. She also consults with clients on content strategy, email preference center management, and other deliverability optimization tactics. And now it is my pleasure to turn the floor over to Jenny.
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Jenny Lassie, and I'll be doing your presentation today. And today's content, we're going to be going over what is monitoring your, why is monitoring your deliverability beneficial to your organization, what contributes to email deliverability, the 5 C's, what are the different reasons your organization's emails could be filtered or blocked from reaching recipient inboxes, how can you overcome deliverability obstacles to optimize your email programs, and we'll also go through some best practices and resources and takeaways from today's webinar. So thank you for joining us. This subject is near and dear to me as I investigate deliverability issues on an ongoing basis for HighRoad Solution, but for this webinar I will be taking a platform agnostic approach because these really, any tactics that I talk about on today's webinar really are platform agnostic. But hopefully whatever enterprise email platform you're currently using does handle some deliverability issues on your behalf via the feedback loops for you, but you want to make sure that you are on top of your deliverability because in essence you are in charge of your own destiny. Okay. So why is continually monitoring deliverability so important for your organization? Well, there's a good answer for that, money. Really when it comes down to it, a wasted email spend. So invalid email addresses or whatever email addresses your platform has determined to be invalid for any number of reasons, excessive email bounces, emails filtered to junk and spam folders equals wasted money. Email is one of the most cost-effective means for e-marketing, but even so your emails aren't reaching an inbox, it's really wasted money. It may not equal, much for each send, but when it's all added up, depending on the size of your organizations and the amount of email you're sending out, you really could, even buy an extra staff person with that money to help with your email marketing efforts. So the important question of the day is, are your emails reaching an inbox? Are you monitoring this? How do you know? Has anyone in your organization, are they constantly looking at this? Are they running any domain delivery reports that your platform might have? It's an important question to ask because the answer has money behind it, really. So what contributes to your deliverability or your ability to reach an inbox? Wait for it, think about it in your head. And the answer is the sum of all parts of a solid email strategy plan. It's probably not the answer that you had thought in your head, but do you have one of those? Do you have an email strategy plan for your organization? No. Then my answer to you would be get in line because many people don't. So where should you start? It doesn't have to be hard. You know, if your internal resources are tasked with doing many other things inside your organization, so email strategy isn't necessarily always top of mind. It's not a hard thing to go through. It doesn't need a formal email strategy plan in place with your marketing plan. You can go with what I like to call the 5 C's of email marketing strategy. So configuration, content, create, criticize, and continue. All right. So the 5 C's, the first step is configuration. So this is really where, aside from just creating your account, creating your users, putting certain permissions for each user, your template permissions, don't forget to put energy into all of these items. So firewall settings, IP address management, DKIM or domain keys, or sender ID and SPF record. So the firewall settings really are kind of at the root of people not receiving their own emails from their own e-marketing efforts. So your firewall essentially is a big brick wall outside of your organization's building. And all of these emails are originating from outside of your organization. So they're not coming from your email server internally. So what happens from an ISP looks at phishing. And so they want to make sure that any email that says it's from you is in fact from you. Well, this is the first thing that they look at. So if your firewall settings are not whitelisting the IP address that your email marketing platform is a part of, it won't let that in. So that's one of the first things that I will have people check is that are you receiving your own communications? And if that's not the case, then we need to address any firewall issues. And IP address management, so dedicated or shared. What's the difference? Dedicated IP addresses are IP addresses that are only for your specific instance of your email platform. So nobody else is using this dedicated IP. You are in charge of your own email sending destiny. If you're sharing an IP address inside your organization or with other organizations, basically any activity that other organizations might do, their sending activity, would essentially affect you, especially if it's a negative thing. So if they send out too many emails to bad email addresses, the ISPs take notice of this and start blocking the IP address, and then you send out a deployment hours later, and all of a sudden you're getting blocks from certain ISPs for no reason. That is what can happen to you if you're on a shared IP. So we do recommend always going with the dedicated IP address for your email marketing purposes, especially if you're sending anywhere north of 100 to 200,000 emails per month. So what do you get then when you get a dedicated IP? Essentially, you are able to implement DKIM or domain keys. Basically, these are email authentication tools that allow you to basically own that IP address, and the email says it's coming from you. It's a way that ISPs use to authenticate that it is a real email sender and not a spammer. Same with sender ID. Okay, the next step is content. Really, content is truly, truly king. And in a perfect world, content and content strategy comes first. Then worry about the when and where to publish it. But many organizations, including our own marketing efforts, a lot of times they'll start off with a certain number of emails that are to be deployed per the email marketing plan. And then you have to think of things to write about and put in and fill in the space of your newsletter. Does that sound familiar? It's pretty common. But content recipients find value in is really where you have to focus your energy. Also, content recipients ask for. So do you have some sort of mechanism where they can tell you what type of content has the most value for them? Content recipients expect. There's a clear call to action in each of the newsletters and emails that you do send out. The content is delivered when recipients want it, meaning if they're, if you have a frequency that you've established to be, okay, we're going to send out this newsletter every Tuesday, and they sign up for it because they know it's coming every Tuesday, then they're expecting it and they want it. You make sure to deliver it at that time. And also, and I put this in bold because it's one of the most important things that email marketers are facing today, is that you need content that renders correctly on whichever desktop or device recipients are using. The next step is create. So you need clean HTML email templates. So if you have content beautifully written and ready to go now, it's time to create. Always use clean code. Avoid duplicating old messages in the system and pasting in new content. If there was any malicious code, duplicating it will only worsen your inbox placement. So most email newsletters are really vehicles that drive recipients or members to your website where their behaviors can be tracked via analytics to learn what content has the highest perceived value for them. So use read more links in your newsletters to a full article that is hosted on your website to support this. Because having all the content in the newsletter, it's not really going to meet your overall objectives, because once that email is deleted, your content is essentially gone. So if you're driving them to your website where the content or the full content lives, all of that is referenceable. It's search, you can, from a search engine optimization standpoint, all of that content is there, bringing more people to your site. So don't just send out emails where the content lives in the email, because once it's deleted, it's really gone. Now, as far as layout goes, you want to stay above the fold with a table of contents, especially if you have a lot of content in your newsletter. If you've also attended our last webinar, Mobile 101, perhaps you've started to explore responsive design, but moving forward, all research supports that numbers of recipients viewing email on a mobile device is growing at a fast pace. And instead of creating multiple versions, which takes a lot of time, you want to spend extra time to code the email with responsive or mobile-friendly HTML markup. If your marketing staff are flowing content into a pre-made template, have your templates made responsive. All right, and then also regularly send emails. You want to find ways to automate these to free up your resources that can put more time and energy into strategy and creating new content. You can also pull content from your website via RSS feeds into your messages. Okay, the next step is criticize, and this is really where analysis comes in. So now we get analytical. So you need to analyze delivery metrics, bounces, opens, and clicks, and really compare them. See how they're trending over months and really even over quarters too, because you will see some seasonal fluctuations in your messaging metrics. So use your bounce logs judiciously to address any deliverability issues within 24 to 48 hours post-deployment, not a month later. And the reason for this is if you happen to see any issues, say you send out an email today, and 2 weeks from now you look at the bounce logs and notice, wow, we're getting a lot of spam blocks from this particular ISP. Well, what do you do? Well, you can reach out to the ISP. However, they have to purge their logs. They only have so much space on their servers. So if you're not addressing the issue within 24 to 48 hours of your deployment, they can't research or investigate why they were bouncing your email. So make sure to do this on a fairly frequent basis. Okay. You also want to isolate subscribers who are not engaging with your emails. Now, this is one thing that a lot of people don't take the time to do, and it's very important. So if you can have a way to suppress anybody that has not engaged with your emails, meaning they haven't opened or clicked through to any of your emails within the past 90 days, I really would highly recommend you suppress them from any sense. Now, even if these are members of your organization that have paid as part of their membership to receive these emails, if they're still not engaging, it is affecting your deliverability, meaning any like web-based email platforms that are receiving these emails, they're taking note of how many times that this particular email has been received from you that has just been deleted without ever being opened. They're going to start routing that to the spam folder. So with those people that you've suppressed, you need to create a win-back campaign for non-engaged subscribers to really incent them to respond. And so you can come up with some sort of strategy that makes sense for your organization to have them, reach out to them with a series of touch points. We noticed you haven't been, receiving any value from this email, or, can we incent you in some way? And reach out to them with the series of touch points, each touch points before they respond, getting a little bit sweeter to entice them to respond. Once they do respond, you can, cycle them back into your regular email marketing efforts. But from a deliverability standpoint, you really do want to suppress them from regular sends, create a special win-back campaign to send to them to get them to respond. Anyway, so onward, suppress non-engaged subscribers until they respond to your win-back campaign. Analyze how many subscribers opt down or unsubscribe from particular messages. You really want to be cognizant if the perceived value of your content is low, because you as an organization may have defined, okay, as part of their membership, they're automatically opted into 6 of our email newsletters. Well, are you really gauging the response and taking a look to see if these topics are in fact what your members want? I know you've defined them up front, but you really need some sort of response vehicle to get them to tell you what it is they want. Okay. And then once you've learned all of this business intelligence and behaviors of your recipients, you really need to apply that to future deployments. So just learning it and kind of, having it in the back of your head isn't enough. You really need to learn and apply it for future deployments. Okay. So what are the different reasons your organization's emails could be filtered or blocked from reaching recipient inboxes? That's really the question of the day. There's many, many reasons. So essentially, your email is coming in the top here, and the down arrow is putting it through a funnel. And there's ISP filters, there's email server filters, and there's even email client filters before your email actually reaches the inbox. That is a lot to go through before you can actually get your emails delivered. So you put all this energy into, creating your content and sending it out and segmenting your audience. And once they actually get through these email filtering levels, your email could go into the spam folder without even, blinking an eye. So troubleshooting email filtering issues. Okay, so any firewall issues, we kind of already touched on this a little bit, but your organization's firewall needs to be configured to allow an email traffic originating from outside your firewall. So that's really, as easy as telling IT about it. So configuration issues, we kind of touched on this. So DKIM and sender ID, if you have a dedicated IP address, you should absolutely bring this to your IT department's attention to configure both of those. And any blacklisting issues could be preventing you from reaching inboxes. You may not even know that you're blacklisted. And engagement issues. This is one of the tough things too, because unfortunately this is where you have the least amount of control. And so if you're all of the web-based ESPs are looking at metrics like messages being deleted without being read, percentage of email opens from anyone or any specific sender to only inbox really wanted email, and it's being trained that way. And don't take it personally. It's many times it's just servers talking to servers, and so there are ways that you can go around that. So also email server filtering software issues. These are kind of the more tough ones to deal with, and that really do require somebody's constant attention to this, because email serving filter software like Postini is a great example, Message Labs, they all use a complex mixture of engagement, keywords, IP blocks, real-time black hole lists that may route your emails to spam or junk folders. They're also the least responsive to your inquiries and to whitelisting your IP address. And then there's also email client issues like Outlook and Mac and Thunderbird, whatever email client you're using on your desktop to view your email, they all have junk mail folders there too that you have to train over time to say, no, this is not junk. so you can train what is considered a wanted email. So what hoops can you jump through to reach the inboxes? So with the firewall, like I said, you can have your IT department whitelist the IP block or IP address that your email account is associated with. Not every email service handles IP addresses the same way, so speak to your provider on best next steps, because some enterprise-level email platforms, instead of a dedicated IP address, they might be using an IP block and rotating those IP addresses with all of your sends. So if that's the only option, certainly do ask them what the best way to handle this would be. Configuration hoops. So ask your provider for instructions on how to implement DKIM and sender ID. Domain keys, they might have a different domain key structure. You give this to your IT department, they're actually going to go into your domain's DNS and put a little NS record in there. So usually it's only possible if your email services has a dedicated IP address for your organization, because each IP address is actually put into the DNS. And if you have a dedicated IP and implement DKIM and sender ID, always warm the IP address first by sending small, inconsistent bursts of email traffic on a daily basis. Usually a good rule of thumb there is to take your normal monthly volume and divide that by 30 and send small bursts throughout the day. Really break it up into chunks to send, because each send that you do, you want to monitor the bounce logs in this IP warming period, which can take anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks, depending on the volume of email that your organization sends out. And any blacklist hoops. So you can look up your organization's domain or IP address with any RBL tool. There's a lot of them. You can Google it, but MX Toolbox is one that I like. Also, what is my IP address, the blacklist check, to see if you're on any blacklists, and if so, then follow the instructions on how to be removed, because each RBL, will have its own way of being removed. Some of them have a web form. Some of them have you send them an email. Some of them have a more complex process. Okay, and engagement hoops. So like I said, since some web-based ESPs are looking heavily at engagement metrics, you want to definitely take advantage of A/B testing. I'm a huge fan of testing, because you never know. Sometimes you might have a hunch on why something is the way it is. You won't really know if that's true until you test it. So you might have A/B testing features already built inside your platform, in which case I highly recommend you use them. But really, A/B testing is more of a concept than anything else. So you just need to send out 2 different email addresses and test one aspect of your email. And I do stress one aspect, because if you're getting a lift with version A, and not as much of a lift with version B, you want to really make sure that you're understanding what is at the root of that lift. You don't want to have too many elements, because you're not going to really know what one thing made the biggest difference. And the email server filtering software hoops. So you can reach out to postmaster or abuse at the domain that's filtering your email, and ask them to whitelist the IP address or IP block associated with your email service. Now, you'll almost always get a response from one of the two. Not every domain has both email addresses, but if you send out an email to both postmaster or abuse whatever the domain is, and ask them to whitelist your IP address, that you're sending emails to members who pay for these as a part of their membership, you'll almost always get a response, and they're going to be very nice and tell you exactly what you need to do in order to go through that hoop. So email client filtering hoops. So ask your email recipients to add you to their safe list or a trusted sender in the pre-header of your email. You can also ask them in every other type of communications that they're sending. So for instance, if you are using your platform also for transactional messages, I highly recommend adding that language to your transactional messages as well, because that's going to help you get your marketing messages through. So engagement hoops also play into this. So try A/B testing to know exactly what type of content resonates with your audience and will elicit the best open and click-through rates. So the takeaways from this would be to be more strategic with your email sends with the 5C strategy. Only send to good email addresses. I know that seems so obvious, but you want to make sure that any invalid email addresses, don't use your email platform to clean your data. That's not, it's going to be very negative for you. You always want to know if an email address is good. So if you don't know, run a test first using an email validation service. One of the services that we really like to use is Verify. It's going to tell you exactly which email addresses are still good. It pings the email address to see if it's good, or if they're not getting a response from the server, and it'll tell you which ones to suppress from future sends. So I do highly recommend Verify. And only send to recipients who are asking for it. If they didn't and you want to send to them, always ask for permission in a permission pass email first. Never purchase an email list. But if you do a reverse append on, say your direct mail database or your membership database that doesn't have an email address associated with it, and you want to do a reverse append process to get the email address appended, you might own the record, but don't assume it's okay to send to it. Always do a permission passed email first to say, ask for permission to send to them. And so here's just a short example of this email that I actually received. And because I wasn't responding to any other offers or opening, it was a permission pass email that had a little bit of an incentive. But the primary function of this email is, goes right from the brand recognition, then goes to a kind of a thank you. You're feeling pretty warm and fuzzy. Great. And then it's asking you, yes, can we email market to you, yes or no? And there's very clear buttons for this. You can have a little tiny bit of marketing message, but the main point of the email is asking them, yes or no, if you can email to them. And this can be used when reaching out to prospects. If you're prospecting, gathering leads at a trade show, whatever the case might be, always ask for permission to send an email to them. And that concludes our webinar for today. So I'll open up the floor to any questions.
Thank you. And now we'll get into the Q&A segment of the training. Your participation is key, so please don't be afraid to ask any questions. You can ask a question via the web conference system by typing it into the Q&A box on the lower right-hand side of your screen and then clicking the call-out button or hitting enter. Or you may tweet your question using hashtag ASAE webinar. And it looks like we do have a few here. Someone asked if you could give an example of a successful win-back campaign.
Okay. Well, this is a great question. A win-back campaign can be used for a couple different things. It can be used for engagement, getting people to engage again in your emails. And as far as, from a membership standpoint, member-driven organizations are, reaching out to get people to renew their memberships. So a win-back campaign really is highly effective for lapsed memberships. So reaching out to them with a sweeter offer. I can't really get into the nitty-gritty of a specific example without the client's permission, obviously, but I'll give you a high-level overview of an organization that had a lot of lapsed memberships. Their membership base is aging, and so they're trying to get more younger members into the pipeline here. So they were reaching out to some of their younger members with the win-back program, offering a sweeter incentive each time for a membership discount. So, discounts work well for people nowadays in this economy. So that was, key in getting their, a lift in their membership renewals.
Okay, thank you. Another one, we noticed that our open and click-through rates decreasing and bounces increasing. Is there anything we can do to reverse these trends?
That is a great question, and really kind of going back to the basics. So having a sound email strategy is key, and unfortunately, when you get to the point where open and click-through rates are decreasing and bounces are increasing, though, that is when you have to take action right away, because that is when you're seeing the web-based ESPs filtering based on engagement, and that's when you have the least control. So you want to make sure that you might do a follow-up campaign with the survey to see what content is resonating the most and the most valuable for each of your customers. You can do this, not necessarily with an email, because obviously if your engagement is going low, emailing them to ask them to fill out a survey might be rolled into their spam box. So reach out with like a direct mail campaign, or maybe any other type of communications that you might have to get a little bit more insight into what type of content would resonate the best with your audience.
Okay. And unfortunately, we have run out of time. There are a number of other questions in here that we will definitely download, be able to answer, and then send out those responses to them. Some are very specific to a particular client. Some, I wish we did have the time to run through them, but we'll definitely make sure that we can get to them and get them out to everybody. And also want to make sure that everyone knows about the next installment of the Lunch Learning Series, Go Social, on May 17th. I want to thank you for the participation in today's webinar, Deliverability Basics, brought to you by ASAE Business Services. A special thank you to our speaker, Jenny Lassie. Within the next few minutes, you will receive an evaluation form via email. Please take a moment and provide us with that feedback. If you have any additional questions or comments, please contact ASAE Business Services at endorsedsolutions@asaecenter.org. Today's session was recorded. You will receive an email within the next few business days with a link to the webinar recording, as well as those written answers to the questions that we were unable to get to today. Today's webinar is copyrighted by ASAE Business Services, Inc., with all rights reserved. This concludes today's program. Thank you, and you may now disconnect.